Hello again. This is Traditional Muzzleloader. My name is Steve Sells. Today our topic is pistols. Now the fur trappers and the mountain men in the rendezvous period of the Rocky Mountain fur trade carried pistols as close distance personal defense weapons. Essentially, they used them as a backup to their long guns. I don't hunt with my black powder pistols, and I certainly don't recommend them for self-defense. But over the years, I've had a couple of different pistols that I used at rendezvous and in shooting matches, and I found that they were less than desirable in the accuracy department. The first one I had was a CVA version of their plains rifle. I could never get that pistol to group well, even from sandbags, because the twist rate in the barrel was 1 in 48, which is the same as their rifle barrels. I also tried a Lyman Great Plains pistol and found the same problems with it. Getting it to group and shoot a tight group on a target was pretty difficult, and the twist rate in that pistol was 1 in 30. So eventually I gave up trying to wring some accuracy out of those pistols, and I started looking for something that had the correct twist rate, and I found this Pedersoli. Now, Pedersoli named this a Charles Moore dueling pistol, and I don't see anything about it that really resembles any of the pistols that Charles Moore built. I'll show you some photographs of some of his pistols and let you decide for yourself.
Charles Moore was a gun builder in London during the 1820s. Here's a set of dueling pistols. The lock is a flintlock. There's a sliding lever behind the cock that will lock it in place as a safety device. The stocks extend almost the full length of the barrel. The single trigger is not a set trigger. This is a very interesting pair of dueling pistols by Charles Moore. These use the early percussion system that used a little pill of mercury fulminate coated with iron oxide. Those pills were about 2 millimeters in diameter, and they contained about 20 milligrams of the mercury fulminate. These locks have a drip bar. There's also the little sliding lever that locks the hammer back for safety. You'll notice that there is an end cap on this pistol, but they were never metal. This one is ebony. Now, this pair of pistols uses the percussion cap system as we know it today. Again, the nose cap on the stock is ebony wood. They were never metal. The lock still has the drip bar. It is a patent breech percussion system. The lock retains the little safety bar behind the hammer. You'll notice that the trigger guard has a finger spur on it, and it is a single trigger.
In my opinion, this pistol more resembles a generic belt pistol or a bag grip pistol that was commonly used in the 1830s. Now, the pistol is percussion. It has a patent breech, and that patent breech has a chamber in it. So I don't understand why they decided to use a drum and a nipple system for this one. Now the pistol has a single set trigger, so when you push it forward, it sets that trigger and makes a very light hair trigger, and there is a screw to adjust that. But it will also fire unset, which is the way I use it when I'm shooting offhand. Now this barrel has a twist of 1 in 18, which is much faster and stabilizes a patch round ball with the light charge that you would use in a pistol. I typically load this pistol with 27 grains of powder, which is just enough to fill the patent breech level. Now later today, I'm going to head out to my local range and I'm going to shoot this pistol from the bench with sandbags and show the type of groups that you can get from the pistol with the correct rate of twist. I load my pistol in a couple of different ways depending on how I'm going to use it. When I'm shooting paper targets for score, I like to load a tight-fitting combination of patch and ball, and I use this loading stand to make that easier. So this pistol seems to shoot its best groups with 27 grains of GoX 3F powder, and that's just enough powder to fill the chamber in the patent breech. So I pour my powder down, and the patching I'm using for this is a white denim. It's a fairly heavy patch. It's been lubricated with a mixture of ballistol and water, laying the patch strip out to dry, and that lets the water evaporate out, leaving the oil. So I'm using a special short starter and a rubber mallet to get the ball started. And then I cut the patch flush with the muzzle. And seat it fully with the loading rod. Now the purpose of my shooting session today is I'm going to be comparing the difference in group size between this thick heavy patch that I need to use a loading stand to load with and the same exact load changing to a thinner linen patch that's easier for me to load in the field. For example, when I'm shooting a pistol trail walk at a rendezvous and we're shooting metallic gongs and the pistol has to be loaded from the bag. So to compare these two loads, I'm going to be shooting at a bullseye target that is 75 feet downrange. I chose 75 feet because that's the distance that we typically shoot our paper match targets at. And then I can get a fair comparison of what the group will look like with both of these different loads. Let's go down and take a look at that target. Not too bad. Now my other method of loading this pistol is when I'm shooting a trail walk at a rendezvous type event, shooting metallic gongs or other targets, and we have to load from the bag. I need a much looser fitting load, so I use the same charge of powder and the same size ball, but I use a much thinner patch of linen, and I lube it with spit lube, and that works very well because the load's not going to be in the gun very long before I get my shot. The spit lube also has an advantage, is that you don't need to wipe the bore of the gun between shots because the spit clears out the fouling pretty well. Now there is a little bit of a trick to loading without any kind of loading stand. I want the hammer down on the nipple. I pour in my powder charge and I hook the thumb hook of the hammer over my belt and rest the pistol stock against my thigh. And I place my spit patch over the muzzle with my round ball centered and on top. And with pre-cut patches, you have to take a little more care to get it centered. And then I pull out my loading rod and I start it with one smack of my palm. And then I turn it around and seat it fully. And that load sits easy enough that I can do that in the field without having to use a loading stand. Now, let's get back on the bench and see what the difference is in the group size between this thin spit patch and the heavier denim patch.
The group on the left is with the heavy patch, and the group on the right is with the thinner patch that's easier to load. Now there is a slight difference. The group on the right is just a little more open than the one on the left. So shooting paper targets for score, I use the loading stand in the thicker patch because that small difference in the group size could cost me a point or two on a target with scoring rings. Here is a target from a few years back from the pistol match in a rendezvous. I was shooting offhand, but we were allowed to load from a bench, so I was using the loading stand in the heavier patch. Now there are 6 shots in that group, and that target won the pistol match that day. Let's get off this bench and shoot some gongs.
This is one of my favorite little pistols. It's a copy of the small pocket pistols built by Henry Deringer. Now, Deringer started building these things about 1825, and he produced over 15,000. Now, these little pistols were so popular that many gun builders began to copy them. So there were a lot of them available during the 1820s and 1830s, and I feel fairly confident that some of them made their way up into the Rocky Mountains and were used by the trappers and the fur traders for personal defense. Now, this was an inexpensive little kit gun that I put together years and years ago. It is percussion with a patent breech and a back action lock. I'm going to show you a photograph of an original that is in the museum at Ford's Theater. This was supposed to be the pistol owned by John Wilkes Booth, which he used to assassinate President Lincoln. Now, you can't expect outstanding accuracy out of these little short barrel things, but they were very effective at close distances.
This is the Derringer in the museum at Ford's Theater. This was the one owned by John Wilkes Booth, which he used to assassinate President Lincoln. Have I mentioned that these little things aren't very accurate? They're not that accurate, but they're very effective at card table distance. And the dirty card cheat deserved what he got.
I hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. That just helps the channel to grow. If you would like more information on the types of pistols available during the fur trade and how to develop accurate loads for them, visit my website at traditionalmuzzleloader.com. Also, go down to the comment section and let me know what you think about the new studio. Until next time, shoot straight and remember to keep your powder dry. That is one dead watermelon. I don't even have enough left to get a taste. Man, that is watermelon mush.